Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sara Rosette.
And I'm Jami Albright. And this week on the show, we have
Anton Eine.
Yes. And if we're a little subdued, it's because, wow, y'all, this interview is emotional and it is impactful. It is so amazing. Anton is living in Ukraine. He lives in Kiev, and he is
he's a writer. He's a sci-fi writer.
Yeah.
But he's taken like this documentarian look at the first months of the war. And it's basically a war diary. Mm-hmm. And so we talked to him about that, and just really good. And we also talked about his nonfiction, but it was really a good interview.
Yeah. He and his family, I mean, he has a little boy, and they still live in the capital. And they, I mean, when we interviewed him, he didn't have electricity. He was working on a backup generator. So it's great. It's a great interview.
Yeah. He had some really interesting things to say about like writing like during difficult times and using his creativity sort of as a outlet for some of the things that are going on. Yeah, it's really interesting. And then we talked about like how you can help, if you're interested in helping Ukraine. So it was really good. And I'm really glad we got to talk to him. Okay. His book is called The Thin Blue Yellow Line Between Love and Hate.
Yes.
So that's the nonfiction book. And then he has a whole bunch of sci-fi and other projects going on as well. And translations, we talked about that too. So we covered a lot.
Yeah. It's really interesting. He writes in Russian and then has his books translated to English. So it's really amazing. So what's been going on with you this week?
I learned that when you do a Kickstarter, you need to allow a little time for customer service follow-up after everything goes out. Because everything is out. It's all good. Everything's all good. But there's just a lot of questions. And people are really excited to receive the book, and they really liked it. So
that's awesome.
So it was good. It's going well, and glad I did it. So I'm still working on that, doing a little writing this week on a fiction, getting back to fiction a little bit. But it's like right before Christmas. And so I was like, well, I'll just put in a couple of days here, and then you know how it is in the holidays. It's a little crazy. Yeah. So little writing, little customer service work for me. And that's about it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and we did have an event in our family. One of our kids graduated.
Yes.
Got a degree, master's degree. So that was a fun week.
I bet it was. It was good to have that done.
Yes.
Off the books.
Yes. We're as happy as our kids are.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome. That's
so great. What about you? What are you doing this week?
Well, I came to Alexa's house, my daughter in Dallas, last Thursday to help. They had a Christmas party thing, and I was coming up on the weekend anyway, so I just came Thursday and stayed with the kids while they went and did that. And then this big Christmas thing that Alexa had planned for me and my mom got the flu, so didn't get to go, but Alexa's husband went, and we had dinner and went to the Arboretum, and then she surprised me with a carriage ride through Highland Park here in Dallas, which is all lit up, and it was beautiful. It was so fun. But then, when you're with Alexa, you just never know what's going to happen. And she edits this, so she's going to hear this, but that girl's a hustler, let me tell you. And so we are now making Chex Mix and fudge for the public, and we're selling it. And we got a few orders, and we were like, I was thinking, this is great. We'll do it, just something fun to do together. Well, then people started posting about it, and now we have so many orders.
Now you have an assembly line.
And I'm like, is the health department going to shut us down? I mean, what are we doing? We're just doing it for fun. And anyway, but yeah, it'll be super. It's been fun. And then on Friday night, my sister that passed away, Jami, we all played basketball, all my sisters, and her basketball team was was the first to go to the state playoffs, back in the day. And so on Friday night, the basketball team in our hometown, the girls basketball team, is dedicating the season to her. And so my family, we're all going for the ceremony because it's a whole thing. And so I'm staying up here because, my family lives close to here. And, so that's what I'm doing. And I don't know, I've got to go home. It's almost Christmas, but I've still got to fulfill these orders. So I don't know.
So you're going to be making fudge up until Christmas Eve.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
Anyway, that's what's going on. But yeah, so this is our episode before Christmas. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Holidays.
Yes.
Happy, whatever you celebrate, we wish you the most happy time of
merriest time.
Yes, with your family. And so we hope you enjoy this interview. It's really, really special.
Yes. So here is Anton.
Today, we're really excited to have Anton Eine here. Anton, welcome.
Hello.
We are so happy you're here.
We're happy to talk to you about you and your book and your writing experiences. So let me read your bio and then we'll get right into the questions.
Yeah, sure.
Anton is a modern sci-fi and techno-fantasy author from Kiev, Ukraine. He has published techno-fantasy series, a sci-fi short series collection, Humankind, and the superhero series, Maze City Stories. He also publishes a nonfiction book, The Thin Blue-Yellow Line Between Love and Hate, his personal diary sharing stories of other people in the middle of the war in Ukraine. After building his successful career in marketing, he let his creativity write fantastic fiction books to actualize numerous ideas he has had in his mind for years. Anton is passionate about food, and some drinks, of course, photography, animals, especially wild cats, and rock music. He likes embedding these hobbies into the fantastic canvas of his writings and into sharing the passion with his readers. So welcome.
Yes, love that. Love that. So first of all, let's just ask, where are you and are you safe? And I know like right now you do not have electricity.
Yes, I'm currently in Kiev at home. It's a difficult question to say if we are safe. We are in the middle of the war. The war zone is not here in Kiev. It was before in winter and the beginning of the spring. Currently, we have often cruise missile attacks and Iranian Shahed drones attacks on our infrastructure, and often they target to just residential houses. Yeah. So we see them. We see our anti-air defense shooting them down just in front of our windows very often, because we live on the side of the city and we see what's happening near Kiev. And we see them shooting down the missiles and drones and the missiles flying by. Just this morning there was attack. Today we did not see anything flying nearby, just heard the roars of anti-air force, missiles probably.
God bless you. I'm so
it's
sorry.
Difficult to say safe. Our son had breakfast this morning before going to the kindergarten. Kindergarten was closed because of the air raid sirens. And when we heard the roars of the air defense, We sent him immediately to the safer zone between the concrete pillars that we have next to entrance of our apartment. And he continued his breakfast there. We used to live in this under this threat since February.
Right.
It's relatively safe, but every day we have a risk that some missile or drone can get right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And because of that, we have blackouts. We have several hours a day of electricity, and without that, we have no water supply, no heating, and no internet connection, and mobile connection as well.
Gosh,
So to have
thank
this
you for
interview,
being here. I can't even imagine. And we are so appreciative that you've taken the time and the effort to be here with us. I know people are going to really, really want to hear your story. So thank you very much.
It's also a pleasure and honor for me because writing this book about the war in Ukraine is kind of mission for me because 3 days after the beginning of war, I was still in shock. I mention a lot in my book Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stages of accepting bad news, and I was still in the first stage, denial. And after 3 days, I read a little poetry by a fellow author, Jenny Williams. She had a little poem, Slava Ukraini, which was dedicated to fragility of children during the war. And I was so much impressed that I realized that I have to put aside all my writings, put aside all my fears and anything else, and write a book about war in Ukraine, but not about the war itself, but about the feelings of people in the middle of the war, feelings of parents who are scared about their children, unable to protect them, and reaction of children. At that time, I did not know what would it be, how will it look like. I mean, not only the book, but also the events. We didn't know what to expect. We were afraid that Kiev will be taken in several days because they were approaching very fast and they were already very close to Kiev, to our house. And it was a very dangerous situation, balancing on the edge. And I didn't know what would be this book about. I was just chronicling the events first chaotically and then slowly, more chronologically in form of the diary. We interviewed my wife helped me to interview other people, our friends, relatives, acquaintances, and someone's who we were able to reach. Someone connected us with other people from other cities. So we got the regular updates from them if they had connection, because many of them did not have any mobile connection and were unable to even to send us SMS or any text message that they are okay. Well, so we were interviewing them, updating the status, and I was writing about it in my book. And then it turned into daily diary of current events, news happening around, what happened to people I told in previous chapters. And I didn't know when should I finish this book. We were hoping that the war might end in 2 weeks or something else would happen. They kill Putin in his bunker, or they will have revolution in Russia. Who knows? And then the war was going on, and the book was growing. And at a certain moment, I realized I need to find some point where to stop it. Not with a full stop, but maybe how do you call it? Three dots?
Yes, an ellipsis.
Ellipsis.
Yeah.
Maybe with kind of ellipsis, not to be continued, but with uncertainty of the future, which is a very fair feeling about the situation. And I found out that for me, that point was about 100 days of the war. When we decided to return back to Kiev from Lviv, where we spent 3 months, first 3 months of war. We spent first couple of weeks in Kiev, then moved to Lviv and in Western Ukraine. And then when we decided that we are coming back home, it was the turning point in my story, and I knew where would I stop.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Sarah.
I think let's talk about the nonfiction book first, and then maybe we'll go into some of the other questions.
Yeah, because I want to stay on this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a very compelling. I've read part of it. It's very compelling, and it's very like your firsthand account. So, talk to us about how you have channeled your creativity into this project, and was it a change from writing? Normally, you write fiction. Was it a change to write nonfiction, and how did you handle that?
It was very difficult because I used to write fiction mostly, also some poetry and songs, but it's all fiction. And in fiction, you have so many tools, so many ways to tell your story and to build the character arc, and you have all the freedom in the world.
Right.
It always depends on the story, but you can do whatever you want. In the nonfiction, I found out that I'm closed in the very serious boundaries. I have to tell the truth. I cannot imagine something happening. I have to capture the current events and current feelings.
Right.
And I even advised to my fellow authors what do they think about the creative ways of doing this. Do they have any ideas of the tools of the story building to make it more interesting, appealing, and I don't know. It was my first experience, and I needed any advice. But at the same time, I have found a lot of freedom in it, because in my fiction books, there are characters that are speaking, and I cannot put all my feelings, all my thoughts and beliefs in their lips, because they are not me.
Right.
They have their own views, their own voices, and their own situations. I can put a bit of myself, but just a bit. And here, first time, I was able to talk to my readers and to tell them whatever I want, whatever I feel, using any language I believe is appropriate for this book, with the normal portion of swearings, because they were very much justified by what was going on. And I have special chapter explaining how our language changed during the time of war and how it affected children. And it was very interesting by itself, interesting topic. But I found that this freedom was very much inspiring because I was able to talk directly to readers. Me as author, Anton Eine, not my characters, not some fictional people, but me and other people whom I interviewed. And this experience is at the same time very much bounding and giving freedom. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I realized that I don't want to write any other book of this kind, because it's very hard and traumatizing.
It would be very emotionally draining, I think.
I prefer my fiction than this. It's a job, it's a mission, it's my duty to do it because I can. I'm in the middle of this war. and I'm able to write something that other people would understand, feel, and become empathetic, and I'm able to share feelings of my countrymen, but I don't want this experience anymore.
Yeah, sometimes the truth is really hard to tell, and I know that I've thought of that recently with some of the things that have gone on with me and my life, and trying to tell the truth about a real life event is super, super hard. And I just applaud you so much. Tell us, kind of explain to us the title. I mean, I get the yellow, blue, those are the national colors of the flag of Ukraine, but the thin blue, yellow line between love and hate. How did you come up with the title?
There were a lot of things before that. First I started writing. It was not titled, and one friend of mine has posted an article about thin blue-yellow line that is defending the world from Russian barbarians. And it was a nice article, and the symbol that he used was interesting. He used it in different contexts, that currently Ukraine is in the fight between civilized world and Russian dictatorship and Nazi regime. And I realized that this blue-yellow line is a nice symbol. And also the thin blue line in English culture is the line of policemen protecting the order from the crime. So my translator advised me not to go for blue-yellow rather than yellow-blue, because it will better remind people that concept. And between love and hate, because it's something that we experience both of these states at the same time. It's love to our nears and dears, and it's hate to our enemies. And every day we change these emotions, and this is like contrast shower, it's something that changing very fast, and we feel it at the same time. And in my book, I give a lot of examples of love, support, care, and rage, hatred for many people. And I try to give different explanations, different angles, and different situations that explain this title within the book, throughout all the book, and different senses put inside of it.
Right. So you mentioned your translator there. So is the book, did you write it in English, or did you write it and have it translated into English, or are there multiple versions?
My native language is Russian. I'm pretty good and fluent with Ukrainian, and I was going to translate into Ukrainian myself, but at a certain moment I realized that there are a lot of people here, or maybe someone who is a refugee in other countries, who badly need work. And cannot find it during the wartime, and maybe it will be good to give them some job, and they help me translate it much faster than I would do, because at the same time I have to do a lot of other things with this book to prepare the launch campaign. So I gave translation to Ukrainian to outsource, and I'm happy that I went there, because the translator did it brilliantly, and I was just editing it.
That's great.
And in English, I also asked my translator, with whom we work on some other books, to help me with translation of this one. And he did it brilliantly. And I know that it was very hard job this time, because the book is pretty complicated. And he did it brilliantly. It was difficult to work with the poetry, because of the difference in some language emphasis and different language structure. But I think what we did at the end was nice enough, and we decided with him that it was a nice rehearsal for the next book, in which I have a lot of song lyrics, and we found out some framework for the next cooperation.
That's great. That's great. So when you write your fiction books, do you write them in Russian and then have them translated to English?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you work
this actually puts me in much more difficult situation than native English speaking writers, because translation of each book is a significant investment. Any marketing investment is nothing compared to the translation. It's like buying a new car.
Sure.
Yes.
And, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, I have recently started translations and completely agree that they're very expensive and time consuming. I didn't realize that. I thought you sent them off and then you got them back, but sometimes it doesn't work that way.
Right.
There's a lot more collaboration.
English translation took me 1 full working month, checking, editing, and revising the translation. 1 full working month.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, talk to us about your cover for the book and do you outsource your covers, and how did the cover come about for your nonfiction book?
For this one, first I did the concept. I was sure I would do myself a nice cover, and I did the concept. It was nice, and I sent it to my friend, who is one of the best creatives in Ukraine, and asked him what was he thinking about it. And he came out with totally different concept. It was a very polite answer, meaning he considered my artwork as crap, and sent me very different version. But it was interesting in terms of the font solution and some modern laconic style, and I decided to make something combined of some best ideas he sent me and best ideas I had. I added this line of the flag and changed it, and I think it's quite good now for this genre. But for my fiction, I go to the professional designers now, and during the war, I was releasing another fictional book, and I wanted to find some local designers who would do this, also to give them the job. I know a lot of designers because my background is marketing. I was working in big international companies at senior positions, working in many countries. So I know a lot of agencies and designers, but they're specializing on the consumer goods and industrial design, whatever, but not books. Book covers is very special area, and I wondered if there are some Ukrainian designers I can work with. And suddenly I found in Mark Dawson's newsletter, I found news about Mebel Art, who are from Ukraine, and they donate their earnings to Ukrainian army. And I immediately contacted them, and since then I'm working on some new covers with them, and I'm happy with this cooperation. They are great creatives, and also I'm happy that I'm able to work with some of my countrymen, and that they support Ukrainian army from their earnings, and altogether it's a great win-win for me.
I just love that. I love that you used other Ukrainians that were refugees for your translations, or I mean, that you're thinking that way. That's just, well, it's beautiful. And frankly, I'm just so impressed and so moved by your story. And I wanted to talk to you about writing anything, frankly, during very difficult times. And our listeners will know why I'm asking this, because I just cannot imagine. I mean, I've recently lost my sister, it's just been very difficult for me to get in a headspace of being creative at all. And I'm just curious how you've managed to do that.
I will be very open. It's difficult. Currently, I think I have kind of PTSD, and I cannot focus on my next writings because I don't feel that inspired. I have some nice ideas. I render some dialogues and scenes for my books, but I'm not able to sit and systematically work on it. First, I'm still in the middle of the launch of this book, and I have too many things to do.
Right.
But it's difficult to write about something else when you're in the middle of the war.
Right.
But when writing this book, I was very much focused. I knew I have to do it because it's a momentum. It's a state of mind when you have to seize the day, because the next day something else happens. Or you don't know if the missile or drone comes here and ruins everything. I was dedicated to finish it as soon as possible, to translate as soon as possible, and to upload to Amazon to be sure that whatever happens, the book is there.
Right.
And it was serious dedication. It's quite stressful. I was writing days and nights. I ignored my job and whatever I was doing for living just to focus on this book. But at the same time, I found that it allows me to get rid of some pain inside, because when you do not keep it inside and put it on the pages of your book, you have I don't know how to express it. It's like there is a something aching deep inside, and then you let it go, and you have some relief. Still, it was very much traumatizing to work with these topics, and usually in the evening I was giving my new chapter to read to my wife, and sometimes, especially when there were news about Bucha, and I was writing one of the most difficult chapters, I asked her in the evening if she wanted to read what was ready so far. And she said, not tonight, because I'm not sure I would be able to sleep.
Right.
After that. And it's a difficult topic to work on, but working on it helped me to keep stronger during these hard times.
Right. Well, I'm sure it made you feel not so helpless, because I can imagine in the situation you're in, you feel kind of helpless because you don't know what's going to happen. But this is your contribution to the world and the people of Ukraine to tell their story. And I feel like that's just so important.
I agree. But I cannot say that we are helpless, because even when there are a lot of people who volunteer and do a lot to help army.
Good.
Help other refugees. A lot of people donate everything they can to army, to refugees, to whatever they believe is the best destination for their donations. And for drones, for furnaces for our soldiers, for equipment, sometimes for weapons, for medicine, a lot of things. And it makes people feel less helpless.
That's
and
right.
More useful. And but I would say that rather we feel vulnerable and uncertain. Not
instead of helpless.
Not helpless.
Yeah. I agree. That's a much better word.
We can do a lot of things to help this victory to happen, but we are still vulnerable, because missiles is something that it's beyond your control, and you cannot protect from the missiles, only go to bomb shelters. But you cannot live in the bomb shelters when the air raid sirens are long and very often, and especially now when there are a lot of blackouts, and winter came again, and bomb shelters are cold enough because often they are just parking lots, underground parking lots, or something like this. We do not have some special bomb shelters or underground stations.
Right. Well, on that topic, if somebody wants to help, do you have any recommendations? Like, I know purchasing your book would be a thing they could do. Is there like any organizations that you would also point to?
I would advise United 24. It's our governmental portal that is combining different donations from all around the world, officially, transparently. They report every week on all the donations they received and spent for different projects. And they have different destinations, like if you want to donate for army, for refugees, for medicines, whatever. I believe this is the best destination for all the donations. And buying my book, I also donate whatever I earn from it and much more. Donate mostly to support people, but also army. We recently donated for these naval drones that then hit Russian warships in the Black Sea. A lot of things, but I think if people want to help, the best destination is official governmental portal for donations. It's convenient. It's
okay. That sounds
and the
great.
money goes right to where it's needed. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I'd like to just switch topics just a little bit, just so that we can hit some of our normal questions, because I know people are interested in you as a writer too. So can you tell us how you got into writing?
It's difficult because I do not have any moment I said, wow, I want to be a writer. I want to write books. I was writing since my childhood, probably teenage time. I was writing some poetry, which currently I cannot consider something serious, of course. I was writing some songs when I was a bit older, and then I had several attempts to write some prose, but that was nothing serious, and I never finished anything because it was just, I got idea, I tried to write it, I don't know what for.
Yeah.
And then something changed in the early 2000s when I found the idea of a book about Christ's second coming in nowadays, in modern world, and I decided to make it mission impossible for him, and to see how he would deal with that. And this is my work in progress yet, and it turned to be a four book series.
Wow.
I have 2 of them ready, and next 2 half ready. At the moment that I prepare the first 2 for translation, do the cover arts with Mabel Art, and this is for me the major project I dedicate myself to. And at that time, I just realized that this is something I want to spend time for, and I want to finish this story because it was something very important, much more important than me. And I really believe that this book can change the world. I hope. It's not religious book, although, and I'm not religious at all. But since this book is about Jesus, it cannot be absolutely non-religious. And then in 2018, my son was born, and I was not able to focus on such a serious epic writing, and but my brain was still generating some ideas and thoughts, and I found out that I was able to write short stories not related to this book, and I started writing a lot of short stories, and then some of them grew to something bigger, to some new novels and series, and then the war came, and I switched to the nonfiction, and currently I plan to work further on this series about Jesus. So this is the evolution of my writing.
That's wonderful.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, throughout your writing career, what has been the biggest surprise to you? What has been the most unexpected thing?
I can't say I had some major surprises. Nothing special I would mention about.
Okay. Well, then.
Yeah. I mean,
ahead,
I just think that idea for story to me is so fantastical and amazing that that's just
which one?
The story, the Jesus books.
But I didn't tell you the major problem. The book is called I, Jesus Rockstar, and he finds out that something went wrong, and he is in the mortal body of world famous rock star who has dedicated all his life fighting organized religion and the Catholic Church in particular.
Oh my God!
And moreover, Jesus finds that he doesn't have any of his divine superpowers. He is just mortal, and the worst mortal he could imagine for that, because in that body, people would perceive him wrongly, and he would not be able to complete his mission to save the world.
That's amazing.
That's a great setup.
Yeah, that's a great setup. I think people will be interested in that. So what's been the hardest thing and been the best thing about writing for you?
The hardest thing so far was working on this documentary book. And the best thing, I think, it's ability to share feelings with people, with other people. And when you get the feedback from them, and when you receive their letters and see their reviews with their feelings, you understand that this is what is worth writing for. To share feelings and to get back feelings of other people. Writing is not for money, not for fame, but for those feelings. I think, as my book is about rock performers, I have a lot there about musicians. Musicians feel the same when they go to the stage during their performance, and they feel reaction of the audience. It's very comparable, different interaction, but very comparable thing. That's why they go to the stage, to feel that energy of the audience.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us, what do you think has been the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success? We always like to ask people, looking back, do they have any tips or ideas that could help people in their writing career?
I don't know what is the best thing, but I think during my years of writing, I found out that the best principle I used and followed always appeared to be the very right, is to always be true to myself and never betray my own beliefs and my own ideology. Whatever characters I use in my books, I always want to be true to myself and my standards.
Right. Well, and I'm sure that comes through in your nonfiction book as well. And before we end, though, is there just anything else you want to tell us or tell the world? Not that we go out to the world, but I mean, we have a lot of listeners. But what do you want our listeners to know about you and the Ukrainian people, and what just anything we can do to help is, we want to know.
I think during this period, we learned very important thing, that the most precious thing in the world is peace. It's very fragile. And I recall this song of Finnish rock band, Poets of the Fall. They sing about how fragile the peace is. And I suddenly just recall those lines, and it's true. Peace is something very precious and fragile, and I think we do not appreciate it that much before we lose it.
Right.
And I think all the people in the world should remember it, because you never know when something happens and our peace is taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish peace and love to all the good people in the world.
Thank you. That's great. I'm telling you, I'm so emotional right now. I just love your story. I think it's amazing. I can't wait to read the book. Yeah. So tell people where they can find you and find out about the book and all of that stuff.
Thank you very much.
Where can they find you? Your website? Do you have a website?
Yes. In my book, I have a website. It's antonaine.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. If you Google me, Google my name, you will easily find all my social media.
Mm-hmm.
And on my website, I have all the links necessary to find other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And in my books, I also have, in the end, all my social coordinates and anything to find me.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for being here. We'll have all those notes all those links in the show notes. And you can find those at wishidknownthenpodcast.com.
Yeah.
And thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast, and to Adriel Wiggins for doing all the admin. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. We hope this episode inspired you, empowered you, and made you laugh a little bit too. If you loved it, tell your friends about it. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. We look forward to being with you again next week.